Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Here we are. Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Nook. Today we are going to talk about Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is a book about, it's about video games, but it's also a book about life, love, and loss. And I don't even know if I was really expecting any of those topics really to be in this. It was more when I read the synopsis, I was like, oh, cool. This is a book about these old friends who reconnect and they decide to make games together because that's kind of like what their forte is. And I had no idea what I was in for with this book, which was like a very heartfelt journey through the turmoil, the highs and the lows of basic human emotions and what people go through when they go through grief. And then when you have success and how that feels and just how different things affect you in your life as you stumble through it. So this book focuses around three main characters. They are Sam Mazer, who ends up going solely by Mazer once he becomes, a video game aficionado of sorts when they have their hit game Ichigo that they end up making together, him and Sadie Green, and then their business partner Marks, who is Sam's roommate. If you're not into video games, I wonder if you would like this as much. Because that's a huge part of the book, but also the whole life story and everything that happens to the characters is very relatable and very human. So I think it could be enjoyed by non-gaming people, but I don't know if you'll enjoy it as much. I don't know. If you read this book and you loved it and you're not a gamer, let me know what you thought of the gaming parts of it, because I'm curious about that. For me, I've been gaming since I was a kid, and my partner and I have streamed over on Twitch since 2016, so for several years. It's such a huge part of my life that I love reading books that incorporate video games in some way or another. So the story starts out, Sam Mazer and Sadie Green, they meet when they're kids. Sadie's sister is in the hospital because she has cancer. Her and her sister get in a fight. And so her mom's like, go out in the other room and, leave your sister alone for a little bit. So she goes out there and the nurse is like, hey, there's a video game system. You want to play Nintendo in this other room? And she's like, there's usually no one in there. And Sadie's like, yeah, because they have a Nintendo at home. So she's totally into it, wants to go play. But when she gets in there, there's this boy and his leg or his foot's in a cast, and she waits and he just sits there and doesn't say anything. She's like, she just kind of watches him play. And then after a while, he's like, after this next turn, if you want to play, I'll let you. So then she bops in and starts playing, and he's like, oh, hey, you're pretty good. And this kicks off this friendship that they have. The reason they keep hanging out is not just because their sister's in the hospital, but the nurse goes and talks to Sadie's mother when they're going to leave. Sam hasn't spoken or said a word in months because he's been through something very, very traumatic. And so this is the first time he's talked. So they're like, is there any way that she can come back and play games with him and talk to him while he's here? That sparks off their friendship when they're I think she's 11. So they're kids. And they become friends for quite a long time, but then they have a falling out. I don't want to get too into details, I don't want to spoil a lot of stuff. So they have a falling out, we'll just say that. And then one day, when they're both at college, Sam's at I have to stop myself from saying Harvard. Sam's at Harvard and Sadie's at MIT. And this is, I believe, in the 90s. So when she was going to MIT, she was one of the fewer female students that went there. And so she's going there and she's learning programming. One of her classes she has with this professor who created this game that everyone loved. And so she's super stoked to have him as a professor and learn from him and this, that, and the other. So she's at MIT, he's at Harvard. And one day they're standing out in the square and Sam sees her from afar, and he's like, Sadie Green, and she at first ignores him, and then he yells out, because when they're younger and they're kids, they used to play Oregon Trail, and he was like, Sadie Green, you have died of dysentery. Diarrhea. That's what else better way to bring people together, I guess. So then she looks and they have their moment, and she goes over and they talk, and he's like, oh, this is like the last chance I have to maybe see her again, because he's missed her so much, and he misses the friendship. And before she leaves, she ends up giving him this game she made called Solution. And so she gives that to him, and she's like, let me know what you think about it. And he's like, how am I supposed to contact you? She's like, my email's on there, and my contact info and whatnot. So he's like, awesome. I don't think he plays the game right away, but he eventually does, and he ends up playing it with his roommate, Marks. Marks was supposed to go somewhere, and then they get so into this game. They both really like it. Sam's like, I want to make a game with Sadie. So he contacts her and is like, we should work together. We should make a game. And so it's about making this happen and them creating a video game. And they do. They create this killer game called Ichigo. It's about this kid who gets lost at sea when a tsunami hits, and they have to make their way back home. And all they have on their way back home is a bucket and a shovel. And this is this game, and it sells millions of copies. And so they start up their company, Unfair Games, and it kind of goes from there. But like working together, people can start to butt heads with their ideas and the love lives of the two, Sadie, and then of Sam, and then of Marks, and how they all intermingle, and just their stories, the success, the failures, the love, the loss, the heartbreak, the grief. There's so many experiences in this book. I didn't expect any of it. I don't know what I was expecting. I've never read anything by this author before. So Gabrielle Zevin, I would love to read more now after reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was truly, truly fantastic. And, obviously it appealed to the gamer in me because I love video games. It covers the whole frickin' spectrum of emotions, of all the stuff that happens. I really felt this author put a lot of heart and soul into this book, and you really felt that, and it really came across. This was a 5-star read for me, and I didn't feel that way until about halfway through the book, but once it really got into it and like tugged at your heartstrings and just some of the stuff that happens, it was so beautiful. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. If you just want a story about people and life, and when crap happens that sucks, but also finding love in unexpected places, then this book might be for you. If you are interested in this book, I will definitely have a link down below. It is an affiliate link. A little bit goes to the channel, and then it also goes to indie bookstores. If you had fun hanging out, boop that like button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish stuff and weird things. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye!